Hello and welcome back to History with Mohammed. Today I'm doing a follow-up video from one of my previous ones, looking at the dragon in the east rather than in the west. There are two different interpretations of the dragon. In Western Europe, it's seen as more of an aggressive creature that brings about negative qualities such as death, destruction, and devastation throughout the lands. In the east, the dragon takes on a different role entirely. It does not guard a treasure, it does not breathe fire, however, controls rain, holds up the sky, and helps farmers in terms of practicing the agrarian practices in East Asia, and in some cases even gives legitimacy to the rulers of the East. And so that is what is in essence the Eastern Dragon: three cultures and three interpretations. However, there is one underlying idea of the dragon. It's not an enemy but a friend to mankind, a force of nature that must be respected and not slain. And so in this video, I hope to take a look at the three cultures: China, Korea, and Japan, and their interpretation of the dragon. In China, the dragon is known as the Long, and the Long is not portrayed as a demonic or devilish being. It's a spirit originally associated with rain. It controls rivers, lakes, and even causes floods. It moves through clouds and lives in the water. And Chinese mythology highlights four dragon kings. They are called the Long Wang, and each rules of the four seas, but their responsibility extends beyond just the bodies of water. They also hold up the skies, and without them, heaven would simply fall. The Long has a direct relationship with earthly power. The Emperor of China ruled via the mandate of heaven, whereby his authority came from the gods. To keep this authority, he needed the cooperation of these dragons. And so, if the emperor ruled well, the dragons sent rain, and the crops would grow, and the people would prosper. And that was a sign that the heavens favored him. However, if the emperor ruled badly, the dragons withheld the rain, and droughts would follow, and famines would be caused, and crops would fail, and the people would suffer because of it. And this was proof that he had lost heaven's favor, and a new dynasty would rise to replace him and blame him on these sort of problems, the fact that he lost the mandate of heaven. And so, therefore, the dragon did not simply serve the emperor would serve the dragon. And that said, the Long is not simply benevolent. If you disrespect it, obviously, it can become dangerous. These floods and storms are signs of that, and are sometimes understood as expressions of the dragon's anger. Respect had to be maintained. And a modern example of this is the 1931 floods in China, believed to have been caused by the anti-superstition campaign led by the Kuomintang government, whereby they had demolished a Dragon King temple in Wuhan, and therefore it was believed that the Dragon Kings had responded in kind by causing these floods. In Korea, however, the Korean dragon takes on a different form entirely. It is known as the Yong, and whilst they are still generally seen as benevolent and associated with water and agriculture, bringing about rain and the clouds, and residing in rivers, lakes, and oceans, taking on that typical characterization of the East Asian dragon, the Korean dragon has a distinctive feature. It developed a longer beard than its Chinese counterpart, and sometimes it has an orb called the Yuiji, which is depicted as holding, granting omnipotence and the power to create. Belief is that only the wisest dragons can wield it. And the journey to becoming a Yong begins with the Imugi being a large serpent and resembling a python living in caves or muddy water. And the Imugi cannot fly, nor does it have power over the weather, and is essentially not yet a dragon. The Imugi must have patience and wait 1,000 years. During this time, being quiet and causing no harm, it has to endure, and sightings of this Imugi were considered good luck. And there is another path to this. If an Imugi finds a Yuiji that has fallen from heaven, it can transform immediately, and upon touching this jewel, it becomes a full dragon. The Korean belief being that a dragon is not born great. That greatness is earned through patience, and it acquires its final form through its own merit, and essentially providing a clear message that anyone can rise from humble beginnings if they wait long enough. There is a notable legend surrounding the Yong, which is the legend of King Munmu, who is a legendary king of Korea, and it is believed that on his deathbed, he wished to become a dragon of the East Sea, and his purpose being to protect Korea and ultimately symbolizing and reflecting the dragon's role as a guardian over Korea, is what sort of King Munmu's story does reflect. In Japan, the dragon is called the Ryu. It resembles a Chinese Long, but again has its own character. Japanese dragons are associated with water, guarding the seas and rivers, and this imagery connects to weather and natural forces and also reflects Japan's identity as an island nation. And the most significant Japanese dragon in Japanese mythology is Ryujin, the dragon god king of the sea, controlling the tides, owning two magical jewels known as Kanju and Manju, one raising the sea and one lowering it. He can create storms or calm them at will. Ryujin lives in his own palace called Ryugojo, sitting at the bottom of the ocean. The palace is made of coral, and fish serve as his attendants, turtles serving as his messengers. And Ryujin himself is one of 8 dragon kings, being figures that were imported to Japan from Indian mythology and also from Chinese Buddhism. Snakes are considered as messengers and connecting him to the world above. And Ryujin has his own complex relationship with humans, as does any other deity in global mythology. He can be benevolent, but he can also be dangerous. And this reflects itself the nature of the sea itself, giving life and taking life. Both aspects are embodied in the dragon. And there are several myths describing Ryujin helping heroes. In one story, he rewarded a man named Tawara Toda for killing a giant centipede that threatened his palace, the reward being a magical bell. In another story, he helped a fisherman named Urushimitaro who saved a turtle. The turtle took him to Ryujin's palace, and he was rewarded with a mysterious box that held extraordinary powers. And fishermen still pray to Ryujin today. They leave offerings at shrines by the water. They thank him for safe passage and they ask for good catches. Shrines dedicated to him exist throughout Japan, especially in the coastal areas where his help would be much appreciated and much needed. And so, as seen by Japanese mythology, the dragon is not an enemy. It's regarded and venerated as a deity, watching over the Japanese people, waiting patiently. And if one proves himself worthy, it helps the Japanese people. But to disrespect it would bring about anger that matches any storm that it provides. There is also the case of these ancient ideas appearing in modern media. In China, the dragon continues to appear in films and literature as the symbols of the national identity. The Chinese dragon is what's synonymous with China, and the dragon dance remains central to Chinese New Year celebrations. In Korea, television dramas reference dragon mythology. The emoji and Yong continue to serve as metaphors for personal growth. The concept of earning one's place through patience, which resonates in contemporary storytelling. And in Japan, there are multiple animes and video games that frequently feature dragons. Studio Ghibli's Spirited Away includes a river spirit who transforms into a dragon. Pokemon includes an evolutionary line for one of its Pokemon, Dratini and Dragonite, which has its own resemblance to the Emogi and Yong. There's also Magikarp and Gyarados, being another sort of evolution of a minor, powerless being to a more powerful entity. And so the Eastern Dragon is not a relic, however, it remains a living cultural symbol for each of these East Asian cultures. And so to conclude and summarize, the dragon has its own place in East Asian culture. In China, the long legitimizes rulers. It holds up the sky, it embodies authority and wisdom, and the emperor serves the dragon, and it's not the other way around. In Korea, the Yong represents patience. It begins as a humble serpent and earns its place after 1,000 years. Its message is that greatness comes through endurance. In Japan, the Ryu rules the sea. Ryujin controls the tides. He helps those who prove worthy. He punishes those who show disrespect. And all three examples of these East Asian dragons contrast sharply with its Western counterpart. The Western counterpart has negative qualities, hoarding gold, causing death and destruction, and taking away from life. It exists to be killed. The Eastern dragon has no need to do any of these negative qualities. Instead, it brings about benevolence, and to the people who respect it and pray to it, it provides good things. It brings life and does not cause death and destruction or devastation. There's a shared understanding that runs through all these cultures. The dragon represents qualities such as strength, wisdom, and protection, but also presents the potential for danger when it is crossed. So that is therefore my take on the dragon's portrayal in East Asian cultures. I hope you have enjoyed this video, and if you want to help out, make sure to like, share, comment, and subscribe. And I hope to see you again. And if you have any other ideas for future videos, do comment them down below. And other than that, I hope you enjoy the rest of your day. Thank you for listening.